Hello friends, welcome back. So my name is Mohsin Mullah and in this video lecture we are going to see about spinning reserve and thermal unit constraints. So in the earlier video we have seen the concept of unit commitment. It is that when we want to supply a particular demand, so it is not required to run all the units of a plant all the time. So only those which are most economical. So those units are uh, you can say operated in a particular combination depending upon their you can say most economic condition, either depending upon the you can say incremental fuel cost or the loading, whichever is most economical. In that way they are selected and operation is carried out for supplying the required demand at different you can say time periods or different you can say times of the year, etc., like that. So now that is without considering any of the constraints. So we were discussing all the concepts of economical operation, but here when we are actually discussing about the demand and the supply, we think only that there is a load and that load needs to be supplied by the plant. But here if you try to understand, so between this demand, so here there is a demand and there is a you can say supplying units. So in between, so what will happen sometimes, depending upon the transmission line losses, so extra, so losses needs to be supplied by the this generating units here. So some of the power will be supplied for that particular particular transmission line to suffice the losses and then to meet the demand. Okay, so that also needs to be considered. So this is a plus value along with the demand. Then there is another constraint that we need to consider here is that sometimes suppose one of the unit, so one of the unit may fail. Okay, so in one of the unit of this particular supply may fail. So in that case what will happen to this demand? So in that case the supply plant should be capable of supplying that particular demand. It should not happen so that because of the failure of one or the other unit, so the demand is not met. So in that case we need to consider another constraint, which is nothing but the spinning reserve, which is called as the spinning reserve. Okay, so basically here if you try to understand what is spinning reserve, so it is nothing but whatever the power generated minus the demand and losses. So if I try to write this spinning reserve, okay, so this is nothing but the reserve power. So this will be usually, so the total power supplied. Okay, so I'll just write total power generated minus PD plus PL. Okay, so whatever these are being supplied, so out of that still what will remain is called as the spinning reserve. So basically spinning reserve is nothing but the you can say reserve power in case of any kind of failure of the one or the other plant or the one or the other unit. So the demand should be met, so thinking that so some amount of power will be always generated in addition to the required demand as well as the required losses value. Okay, so that is called as the spinning reserve. Okay, so basically the spinning reserve, if you want to define it in a proper ways, so let us write the definition here. So spinning reserve is defined as is defined as the total amount, as the total amount of generation available, amount of generation available available from all units, from all units synchronized to the grid, synchronized to the grid or power system minus the load demand and the losses being supplied, minus the load demand and the losses being supplied, and the losses being supplied. Okay, so total power generated minus low demand and the losses being supplied. Okay, so it is what you can understand here. So basically what will happen, so all the units will be working here, different units will be working. Suppose if this is a overall power plant, okay, so there will be a number of units working here. So unit 1, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, so on. Okay, so some other plant will also be connected to this particular power system, so maybe some other number of units will be available. So this is, say, overall one grid or power system. Let us say this is one power system. Power system is nothing but the interconnection of various for time being power plants. Okay, so now what will happen, so they will be finally connected to a total, say, one bus. Okay, so this is the main bus here. Okay, so now what will happen, so here there will be a fixed voltage value as well as frequency. So this needs to be kept constant. Okay, so this should not change. So ideally this value should be constant here. Okay, so now since all the units are working in the synchronized situation, so they are working so as to produce the equal you can say constant frequency on this particular bus bar here. Okay, so they are trying to produce the constant frequency, say 50 hertz is the required frequency. So here they are trying to produce 50 hertz of the frequency. Okay, so now what will happen, suddenly suppose one of the unit fails. Okay, so this unit is failed. So in that case what will happen, so it may so happen that this will affect the frequency. Okay, so this may affect frequency, so that will be you can say dangerous condition for the overall operation of power system. Okay, so because of the change in frequency, so too many things will be damaged, and also there will be a lot of you can say losses incurring in the system, so that needs to be avoided. So for that also we have to have a additional unit, so which is capable of supplying so this particular demand. Okay, so whatever this 7 is there, so it should be capable of supplying this particular demand. Okay, I mean sorry, the capacity. So whatever capacity of this unit 7 is there, so this additional unit should be capable of supplying that. So this will be nothing but the here spinning, this can be considered as the spinning reserve. Okay, so now as soon as the one of the unit fails, so the additional unit will take its role and will start supplying, and again this voltage and the frequency values will be kept at the required constant condition. Okay, so now here we need to decide the value of the spinning reserve, how much spinning reserve needs to be considered here. So the allocation of magnitude of spin reserve is usually decided by the reliability considerations and also the economic associated with it. Okay, so some of the electric utilities prefer to have the spinning reserve a given percentage of forecasted peak demand. Okay, suppose at a particular time period maximum load demand will be, so this is a PD peak. Okay, so this is 100 megawatt. Okay, so out of this 100 megawatt, so some percentage will be decided like 30% or 40%. So this value, suppose 30 megawatt, okay, or say 40 megawatt, it may change. Okay, so this value will be considered as the spinning reserve value. So either this or this value will be considered as the spinning reserve. That is one way. Another way is, suppose there are 1 to 8 units available in this particular power plant. So all of these units will be having their own maximum capacities. Okay, so they are having minimum and maximum values that we know. Suppose if the maximum capacity unit fails, in that case what will happen? Because that is the big question. So who is going to so compensate for the loss in the that power supplied by the maximum capacity unit? So in that case it is better to go with the, so this spinning reserve should be equal to, so this is one way. Okay, so this is first way, and this is the second way to select the or allocate the spinning reserve value. Okay, so spinning reserve should be equal to the maximum capacity unit. Okay, so out of all the units, whichever is having the maximum capacity or whichever is contributing maximum amount of load, okay, so equal to the maximum capacity of a unit. Okay, so it should be equal to that particular. Suppose one of the unit is here generating 30 megawatt, so the spinning reserve should be equal to 30 megawatt. So it is all depends upon the you can say situations of that particular power system. So it will not be same in all the cases. So depending upon the economic situation of that particular power system and availability of the you can say convenient units, so this can be decided, so which units to be kept as spinning reserve or how much capacity of that unit has to be kept as the spinning reserve, etc., like that. Okay, so also here when we are trying to manage the different grids, okay, so one grid is okay to be operated with the spinning reserve, but also there is a problem is what will happen. Suppose here we'll take the example of this our India's grid system. So in India we have so here let me just use different color. Okay, so in India, so we have we can say northern grid, southern grid, etc., like that. So here suppose I'll take the example of northern grid and southern grid here. Okay, so northern grid is having unit 1 2 3. Okay, so they are having the units 1 2 3, and our southern unit southern grid is having suppose the units. Okay, so this is southern grid, so this is having unit 4 and 5, 4 5, and these two units are connected by using a tie. Okay, so these are connected together using the tie. Okay, and here different units are having different we can say capacities, um their own maximum capacities, and together they are going to supply the required power demand here. Okay, so there will be some amount of this overall power generated will be kept as the spinning reserve here. Okay, so it depends upon you can say that particular situation how much is needed to be kept. Okay, suppose the here total overall regional load is suppose around about say 2200 megawatt. So in that case the overall generation will be 2000 megawatt, and spinning reserve in that case will be kept as 200 megawatt. Okay, so that will be kept here. So likewise that is for one unit. So likewise for the different units, so overall spinning reserve will be kept. Suppose if there is a 1200 megawatt generating capacity is there. Okay, so I'll take just one example here. Suppose this is the unit 1 we are talking about, so I'll just take this. So unit 1 we are talking about, so its capacity is okay, so it's everything is in megawatt here. So its capacity is suppose 1200 megawatt. So out of this 1200 megawatt, it is not going to supply the entire 1200 megawatt. It will just give the output of 1000 megawatt. Okay, because the remaining 200 megawatt out of this will be kept as this 200 megawatt will be kept as the spinning reserve. Okay, so that is how it will be selected. So likewise all the units 2 3 4 they are having their own values, so they are kept. So like unit 5 is having around about 4000. Here its total capacity is 4 sorry one second 600 megawatt. Okay, so it is having 600 megawatt, and out of that it is going to supply only 320 megawatts, and the remaining power will be 280. So this will be kept as the spinning reserve for this unit number 5. So this is having their own values, so I will not go in detail, so just try to understand this. Okay, so now 600 megawatt. So now suppose here upper side also, suppose there is one of the unit is going to fail, and that is going to supply some here I will take one example. Suppose this particular unit 3 is having 800 megawatt, and it is going to supply around about a 500 megawatt of output power. Okay, so there is a spinning reserve out of this as 300 megawatt. So now this is in the northern unit, northern grid, and this is in the southern grid. Okay, so both of them are connected together, and they are overall supplying to the overall say India, overall load of the certain part of the India. Here I'll not take the entire, but I'm trying to give the example here. So okay, So here it is having a particular demand. Now this grid is going to supply the this particular demand here. Okay, so so this particular grid is going to supply the demand out. Together this can be considered as a power system here. Okay, so now when there is a operation going on, suddenly what will happen, the unit number 3 is going to fail. So unit number 3 is going to fail means how much it is going to supply? 500 megawatt. So there is a shortfall of that 500 megawatt. So here unit number 4 and 5 in the southern grid can be considered as the, you can say in that case as the reserve units. So now unit 5 is capable of supplying that 500 megawatt as its capacity is 600 megawatt. So it can be directly applied, connected to the tie, and it can supply that 600 megawatt. But there is a constraint again. So what is that constraint? So here, so this particular tie, so capacity of this tie is only 550 megawatt. So they are not able to handle the 600 megawatt of power. So this unit number 5, even though it is capable of supplying the that demand of 500 megawatt, it is not going to supply that, because the tie that is connecting these two grids is not sufficient, not, you can say, capable of handling that amount of 600 megawatt of power, as its capacity is only limited to 550 megawatt at the max. So because of that, again, so you can say this is a big constraint. So we have to also see whether whatever spinning reserve we are trying to keep, whether that reserve is capable of being utilized wherever it is required in the power system. So based on that also we need to here decide the you can say spinning reserve and the location of that spinning reserve. Okay, so where it should be situated in the overall power system. Okay, so that you need to try to understand here. Okay, so the southern is independently supplying the southern load, and this northern is supplying the northern load. Okay, and together, say I am talking about India here, but sometimes what will happen, suppose here there is a no need of that much amount of power, so one or the other unit is capable of supplying. But if the tie is not sufficient to handle that amount of value, then there is no use of keeping the spinning reserve in the southern grid. We have to have a spinning reserve in the northern grid itself. Okay, so likewise here also in the southern grid we should have a different spinning reserve. Just by interconnecting the grids we may not be able to make sure the continuous supply of the you can say load. Okay, so continuous supply to the whatever actual load demand is there in the real time. So that is one of the constraints we need to remember here. Okay, then the other constraint is on the power system is the here thermal unit constraint. Okay, so the next one is the thermal unit constraint. Thermal unit constraint is nothing but, so one thermal unit is nothing but it is a combination of boiler and turbine and generator. Okay, so now boiler needs to be, you can say it has to have a particular temperature value, and also it has to have a particular pressure value for the steam output. So that needs to be made sure before it is actually committed in the supply. Okay, so whatever it is to be supplied. So therefore, suppose if there is a unit being operated for some time, so now its use is not there, so I mean that much amount of power is not required, so we cannot suddenly go and turn off the unit. So there has to be some time given before the unit is completely switched off. Okay, so it is called as the uptime. Okay, so here we have to give some minimum uptime before the working unit is turned off. So we have to give some minimum up time. Okay, so it has to have some minimum up time. Okay, so it takes some time before it could be switched off. This is also known as minimum uptime. Okay, so similarly if a unit is minimum uptime for unit to switch off, okay, similarly if a unit is to be committed, okay, so when unit is not working, not in operation, so in that case now there is a need to use that unit. So that case directly the unit cannot be connected to the power system, before it is actually supplying the load, there has to be some time provided around about 4 to 6 hours. Okay, so 4 to 6 hours of time is given, so which is called as the minimum downtime. Okay, so since it was down for a long time, or it was not in operation, so it will not have a certain required temperature and pressure of the steam. So before the steam reaches to the required temperature and pressure, so we have to give that minimum 4 to 6 hours of time before the unit is committed. So that is called as minimum downtime. And this whatever operation is being carried out during this uptime, and this is during the downtime, this is not being accounted in the demand supplied. Okay, so whatever power is being generated, this is just the wasted power here, just to bring the units to the normal operating condition we are doing these things. So this is only for bringing the particular you can say unit to a operating condition. So that is called as the here thermal constraint. Okay, so thermal unit constraint. So because the thermal unit cannot be directly put in the operation, so it has to undergo certain time period to be ready to be used in the actual power supply mode. Okay, so that is called as the thermal unit constraint. Okay, so a thermal unit is never connected to the grid until the steam attains certain temperature and pressure for better efficiency of the plant. Okay, the fuel input to the unit from cold to the state when it can be connected to the grid does not produce any electric energy, yet it is very much required, which is known as startup cost. Okay, so here whatever cost is incurring, so that cost is called as the startup cost. Okay, so this is called as the startup cost. Okay, so it is very much essential. Okay, so now suppose if the unit was completely off, and it was in the cold condition, means it is not in the operating condition, so it has been off since very long time. So whatever operating cost will be there, so that operating cost will become very high in this particular case. Okay, so it will be the maximum operating cost here. Okay, so this is for the cold. If I take the startup cost here for different units, okay, and here say number of units, sorry, number of hours. Okay, so 1 2 3 4, as the hours are going to increase, the overall startup cost is going to increase. So this is particularly for cold. And if suppose here initially if the unit is not completely turned off, it is still having certain temperature and pressure in the steam, and only it needs to be brought up to the required levels. So here this is called as the banking startup cost. Okay, so here it is called as banking startup cost. So this is the minimum required, and after that if the, so this is called as the, sorry, this is banking startup cost. Okay, so other one is called as the cold startup cost, and this is banking startup cost. So here it means that already the unit is not completely off, means it is in the cold condition, it has been in use, and it is just you can say from operation to non-operating state. Now it has to be again turned kept in the operating state, so that is called as banking startup cost. So some amount of fuel needs to be used here to heat the steam to bring it to the required temperature, which is required for generating the electricity by the turbine. Okay, so for that some fuel needs to be here used, so that cost is called as the banking startup cost. And similarly, when the new unit is to be started, so that requires completely from scratch, we have to turn on the unit, so it will require a higher amount of startup cost. Okay, so in the beginning it will take large, and later on it is going to reach to the, you can say, maximum startup cost until it becomes ready for the operation. Okay, so this is what I wanted to discuss in this particular video lecture, basically the constraints in the power system. So we had only considered the economic operation, neglecting these constraints. We had considered the transmission line losses, but we had not considered about the spinning reservoir or the this thermal unit constraints. So these are also very important. We need to remember these constraints also when we are actually talking about the power system operation or economic power system operation. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video lecture with some topics regarding how to select the particular units. Okay, so that is different methods to solve the unit commitment problems. Okay, so till then, happy learning and thank you.